This is an emergency episode because Bitcoin, more specifically Coldcard, a hardware wallet, a signing device for Bitcoin, had a security incident that costed thousands of Bitcoiners thousands of Bitcoin. Over $80 million got stolen. And this is just now on Monday, the current stand. This could already be doubled tomorrow. There is more and more news coming out of more and more devices and more of methods on how those Bitcoin actually got lost. First, it was just one Coldcard device. Then it was all the Coldcard devices with a specific firmware, but not the ones with passphrases. Now it's also Coldcard with passphrases that got affected by it. If you do have Bitcoin on a Coldcard, move them today. Do not wait till your Bitcoin gets stolen. This is an emergency update. This whole episode is dedicated to everyone that lost a Bitcoin with Coldcard and to everyone that loves self-custody and wants to still fight for freedom and sovereignty in Bitcoin. Enjoy. I think we should address it as fast as possible, the whole Coldcard thing. How has it been for you? Like, what is kind of your first read on when you first saw it and then the developing the days afterwards?
Yeah, so like most people, I started to hear about this, I think it was Friday, maybe Thursday last week. Let's say 30th, 31st of July, I think is when this whole thing really started. And I have a private mentorship community, okay, that is involved in Bitcoin. I've coached a lot of people, particularly Australians, over the past 18 months, guided a lot of people on this journey. A lot of people are very new to this space. I'm a private client of the Bitcoin Way, and I've recommended a lot of people to their services over the past year or so. So really the last 3 or 4 days, it feels like I haven't had much sleep. It feels like it's just been one thing after the other just to ensure that everybody's Bitcoin that I've come into contact with is safe, okay? And thankfully, so far, everybody's Bitcoin is safe, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for the team at the Bitcoin Way and the way that they've got straight on the front foot with this to alleviate concerns, to mitigate any risk, any loss of funds. And they too, as of this recording, do not have one reported case of any clients who have lost any Bitcoin. And many of the people that we are associated with have used and do use Coldcard. Okay, so this isn't because everybody that we're associated with uses another device. I mean, many people use Coldcard. Okay, so but this really speaks to the redundancy, okay, in the protocol that we recommend, and ensuring that nobody who has self-custody Bitcoin has one single point of failure. Okay, and a seed phrase is a single point of failure. Now, nobody predicted what could have happened. I think there's a lot more to this story that will come out. I'm not the only one who thinks that. I mean, already there are people out there who are conveying what I would say are very compelling cases as to why this could be a coordinated attack, not just a random thing. So, I think it's just a case, Robin, of right now we're just managing the current situation. Again, I feel a sense of responsibility, particularly to the Australian Bitcoin community who I've had a lot to do with. And so I've just done everything that I have been able to do over the past, 4 days, just to make sure that anybody that I know who's in Bitcoin, and particularly who's using Coldcard, that their funds are safe. So, with that, happy to take this wherever you'd like to take it.
Yeah, I think I've learned a lot with my YouTube channel, and the one major thing I learned is the things the people are aware of that work in Bitcoin and talk about Bitcoin all day long are very different from the things that the people are aware of that listen to content or are like not as regularly actively in Bitcoin. So probably like 60% or 70% of the audience is maybe not even as aware of Coldcard as we think they are aware. I mean, it was kind of hard to miss still, because I got probably I don't know 15 emails from different companies saying their thing about the Coldcard thing, and my feed is since days full of it still. I barely get any other post on my Twitter or X feed in there. But for the people that only heard about it a little bit, or for the people that maybe even heard about it now the first time, because I do think we are in a little bit of a bubble. What has happened with Coldcard? What is the issue, and how big kind of is the scale of this whole thing, you think?
First thing I'll say is I'm not a technical guy, so I don't understand the full implications of how all of this works. But what I will say is, from what we know, there was a firmware update in 2021, so 5 years ago, and that specifically related to certain Coldcard devices, namely, as far as I'm aware, the Mark III, MK3, 4, and 5. Okay, and so effectively, the bug that exists is in this particular firmware update. And what it means is that if you derived your seed phrase from one of these devices, then effectively that seed phrase has been compromised to the extent that an attacker has the ability, I'm sure with the help of AI, to reconfigure your seed phrase to the extent that they can then steal your Bitcoin. Okay. And like, as we know it right now, I think the latest figure is somewhere between 1,000 and 1,300 Bitcoin that have been lost. I also know that something like 15,000 Bitcoin has made its way back to exchanges over the last few days, because of course people, have been really concerned that their Bitcoin may not be safe, and so they've taken what they think is the best course of action temporarily, and that is to just send their Bitcoin back to an exchange, just to kind of keep it out of harm's way for the time being until they have time to figure this out. Now, all of this, to do with this firmware, it and the ability for the seed phrase to be reconstructed by an attacker, it's all to do with what we call entropy. Okay, entropy is what drives the encrypted security of every Bitcoin device, and it's all associated with the level of randomness that the seed phrase or that the devices use to produce the seed phrase. And as far as sitting on a webinar yesterday with Tony from the Bitcoin Way, I've just got some quotes here from what he shared. And a secure seed should apparently have 128 bits. This is like a standard for a secure device producing a seed phrase, 128 bits. Apparently, the devices that were compromised with the affected firmware, they only have 72 bits. Okay, so right there, you can see that there's about 40 to 50% reduction in terms of the level of security associated with the devices that produce those seed phrases, meaning that it now paves the way for an attacker to reconstruct that seed phrase a lot more easily than otherwise could be the case. And so I don't want to overwhelm the viewers here, Robin, because I realise not everybody's technical and neither am I. So I don't want to sort of speak out of school here. And I'm sure there's people in your audience that are a lot more informed than I am on the technical side, but that's broadly what I understand. Now, our guidance has been with everybody in our community, anybody I've had anything to do with over the past year to 2 years since I've been guiding people in the Bitcoin space, the guidance that's coming from the Bitcoin Way, who I would regard are the world experts in cybersecurity when it comes to Bitcoin. None of their clients have lost a single Satoshi as of this recording. And so I think this speaks to the level of OCD and redundancy that they bring into their infrastructure for every client. Okay. So right now, I think the last 4 days has been purely about getting everybody to safety who uses a Coldcard. Even people who don't necessarily have a Coldcard, I think what this has done is it has caused them to start bringing in some other layers of security to their setup. Okay, so even if they just have a seed phrase protected device, it could be a Trezor, or it could be, you know, a Foundation Passport or anything else. It's made them realize, well, hold on a minute, having one single point of failure in my Bitcoin security may not be enough in the world that we're in right now. And so they've gone and set up things like a 13th or a 25th word passphrase, things like that, to try and create that extra layer of security in their setup.
I was debating let me take this from a different, what do you think did that to self-custody? Like, do you think there is now a bad annotation to self-custody because a lot of people lost Bitcoin with self-custody, and previously it was like you lost Bitcoin if you have been on exchanges, like we talked about the FTX, we have talked about Mt. Gox, and probably like 50 other things that happened between those two events. Now something like that, I mean, self-custody, like, people always lost in the history of Bitcoin, people always lost Bitcoin when they self-custodied the Bitcoin also. But usually it was way more obvious and user error. Now with Coldcard, it was also preventable. It was not that everyone that just used the Coldcard just lost the Bitcoin. It was, you had to dismiss the dice rolling, which I think Coldcard and most people that recommended the Coldcard recommended to do. So you had to kind of dismiss that instruction. If you use the passphrase, I think you also have been mostly safe. I think there's been like 1 or 2 instances where they actually also got the passphrase hacked, but most of them, most people with passphrases were safe. Now, what do you think does that incident, that event, mean for self-custody, Bitcoin in general?
Well, I think it's going to set back self-custody temporarily. Now, I don't believe self-custody is dead. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are saying, I will never self-custody my Bitcoin again. I'm going to leave my Bitcoin on an exchange. I'm going to buy an ETF. I'm going to buy a treasury company. And the sinister side of me, Robin, thinks that maybe that's what they want. Okay. Now, there's no evidence to suggest that this is an inside job of any kind or a coordinated attack, but it is very curious when you think about the timing of all of this, and the fact that, you know, we are days away from what many regard as the most contentious soft fork in Bitcoin's history, you know, the BIP 110 thing. And the fact that this just comes totally out of left field at this particular time, particularly given that these seed phrases have effectively been compromised for the past 5 years. So why is it? I mean, this Bitcoin could have been hacked years ago. So why is it happening right now? Okay, so there are so many unanswered questions in all of this. And I think as time goes on, we're going to get closer to the truth of what's led to this. I mean, people have to understand that Coldcard has long been regarded as the gold standard in terms of hardware devices. I mean, it just has. I mean, their slogan is there is no second best, you know, and so everybody has been on the Coldcard bandwagon to some extent. I mean, I've never recommended any particular device on my channel. I always say, look for air-gapped Bitcoin only open source, and then go and do your research and find one that fits that bill. But the thing is that, you know, it's definitely been one of the most recommended and reputable cold storage devices out there. And so when something like this happens, when the people who have lost their Bitcoin have done everything right, it's not their fault. They've done everything that they've been told to do, that they believed is right. Take your Bitcoin into self-custody, make sure you use a secure cold storage device, take care of your seed phrase, make sure you have a backup. Okay, people have done all of that. Sadly, what the event of the last few days shows is that it is not enough to secure your seed phrase. Because if the world's #1 cold storage device, okay, that is recognized as one of the best, if not the best out there, can have a hack of this level, what does that say for the rest of the hardware device, you know, products that are out there, and should we be concerned about that at greater level? But in my view, this doesn't mean self-custody is dead. This is just going to be the catalyst for people to realize that they cannot have one single point of failure in their setup. And unfortunately, a seed phrase is one single point of failure. Okay, you need multiple redundancies. It's just that simple. Until the technology with seed phrase security and what have you evolves to a point where we can be absolutely certain that none of this could ever happen again. But again, I'm not a tech guy, so I don't know what that looks like. And many people advocate for multi-sig and collaborative custody and those kinds of things. And I think for certain people, I think that is absolutely the best way for certain people to go. Because the truth is, Robin, and you know this, Bitcoin and self-custody is a serious business. Now, if you're just playing around with a few $1,000s, that's fine, okay? It's not the end of the world. But if you're holding any meaningful amount of Bitcoin, and I know people who are holding hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars in Bitcoin self-custody, okay? You cannot have a single point of failure in that setup. There's just too much at stake. I mean, I know people who have the entire retirement accounts, their superannuation that they've spent 40 years accumulating, 100% in Bitcoin in self-custody. Okay? So, you know, you have to take this bloody seriously. And when we're talking about that level of capital and savings and retirement accounts and wealth stored in Bitcoin, this is the wake-up call we all need. We have to make sure that we have multiple redundancies, that there is no single point of failure in our setup. And so I think what's going to come out of this is that self-custody, and those who are in the business of helping people self-custody, they're just going to take things to the next level in terms of building an impenetrable infrastructure. And this is exactly what the Bitcoin Way guys are doing. Okay, over the past 3 days, they have been working around the clock, every single team member, and I think they have a team of 19 people now, around the clock to ensure their clients' Bitcoin is safe. Okay, that's step one. Step two, as of the 15th of August, they will be migrating free of charge for every single client to a new reconfigured, even more robust, even more OCD setup. And this is what it's going to take, because, you know, people have to understand that this is actually a war. Like, we are in the midst of a financial shift here, a wealth shift, a financial revolution. And Bitcoin is an idea whose time has come. The world needs Bitcoin. But the legacy financial system, they want Bitcoin on their terms. They don't want plebs like you and I controlling our own wealth, okay, operating peer-to-peer. They don't like self-custody. They want you to store your Bitcoin on their exchange or in their ETF, okay, IBIT, treasury company. Why? Because once it's all in the hands of them, they can basically call the shots on your life. And so this is a battle that I think is going to continue. And Bitcoiners who really believe in the ethos of Bitcoin as sovereign money, as the separation of money from state, this is simply going to be the impetus for them to not allow this to happen again, to take their self-custody even more seriously than they were before. So, you know, I think there's going to be that. Yes, there are going to be a lot of people who will never do self-custody again because it's just beyond them. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to put themselves at any kind of risk. They don't want to learn the steps. They don't want to engage a professional organization to help them. There's a whole group of people that will choose to just leave it in the hands of a counterparty because that's what is going to give them comfort. But what I wonder, when you consider that 15,000 Bitcoin in the last 3 days have gone back to exchanges against the backdrop of all of this shit that's been going on the last couple of years, really, with, you know, BlackRock coming on board, you know, to start centralizing Bitcoin, the treasury companies, on the eve of the Clarity Act, on the eve of the most contentious soft fork in Bitcoin's history, this BIP 110 thing, which seeks to secure Bitcoin as its intended purpose, which is solely as a monetary protocol, not for anything else. There's too many things going on right now that suggest to me that this is an attack, a coordinated attack. Now, I'm happy to be proven wrong. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I just think that as time goes on, I think there's going to be more to this story.
I think so too. But I really like your perspective of, like, first of all, like, I 100% agree. Coldcard, even though I've never actively promoted it on my podcast or any other channel, I always liked it. I always said it's an amazing device, and it was one of the most trusted signing devices ever. Now, I say signing device because that's how I view every hardware wallet. It's a signing device, and that's also the thing that I think a lot of people don't get. It's a signing device and not a seed generation device, which is very important to know from just a self-custody perspective. And I also thought about that because we're in a bear market. Like, very clearly, we are, 40-50% off the all-time high from last year. It's exactly the year where we are supposed to go down according to the Fourier cycle. I hate that the Fourier cycle is right, but apparently it is still ongoing, this whole Fourier cycle theory. And every major downturn usually has victims. Now, we had FTX, Celsius, we had Mt. Gox, we had, like,
4 years ago.
Yeah, like, we usually always have victims of bear markets. Now, this time we also had victims. We had Bitcoin companies that laid off 20% of the staff, 50% of the staff. Like we had those victims, but it was not big victims. It was not a huge thing. The Coldcard thing, even though it was not because of the price action of Bitcoin, definitely not, because it's actually weird that such a thing happens in a bear market, because the incentive to hack Bitcoin when the price goes up 100% is twice as high as it would be before. So the price being down is actually disincentivizing people to hack Bitcoin, because the value of those Bitcoin is less. But nevertheless, it happened, and it's kind of, for me, the first real victim, the first real thing that the bear market made, even though it's not through the bear market, is Coldcard. I don't know if they can recover as a company. I think it would be very hard. I don't want to say it's impossible, but it remains to be seen what they will do as a company, because now, of course, they are also recommending to switching to another device, as I think I saw a post from them recently. But this has a positive thing, a positive side to it. And I always am optimist. I always try to look at what's the silver lining, what's the positive side of that whole thing. And the positive side, I think, is that people are now learning that self-custody is not a toggle that you can just like flip on in your Bitcoin setup. It's something. It's a different way of life. It's something that you have to take very serious. If you have your Bitcoin in an ETF or like an exchange, or you trust someone else, or you just have treasury companies, like I don't recommend that, but like that's okay. If you have self-custody, you need to be responsible of that. You need to actually know what this means, because this means that there is no third party that you are trusting. And Coldcard is also a third party that you cannot trust, but you also cannot trust any other hardware wallet out there. You need to verify yourself. And now the people that didn't trust Coldcard but used Coldcard, they didn't get their Bitcoin stolen, because they used passphrase, they diced the entropy themselves. They didn't rely on Coldcard to generate the seed phrase. They maybe used multi-sig, they maybe used multi-vendor, so different signing devices for different keys, full redundancies. Like, you cannot rely on a single third party and a single point of failure to keep your Bitcoin. It's similar, not the same, but similar to keeping all your Bitcoin in exchange, because at that point, you're trusting that exchange with all your Bitcoin. It's a single point of failure. If you use a point and you have it on one thing, it's a single point of failure. So I think this is one major learning, and I hope this makes people more aware of what self-custody actually means, and makes people's self-custody setup stronger, and doesn't shock them into like, oh, now I have to go and exchange. Now I just trust like big institutions again. I have one small data point of my small universe that I live in. As you might know, I'm a small co-owner and co-founder of Microseed. And when this whole thing happened, I was like, oh, like, what does this mean for Microseed? And I was like, probably not too much. There will be a few people that might now look at Microseed and they buy a device, but I didn't think there's anything materially happening to our sales side, because we are not a service company. We are not helping clients with moving funds. We're just providing one tool that you need to secure your backup. Now I have something, and I'm curious what you think about that. I have a small stat that I want to pull up. I was thinking before if I should pull that up, but I'll do it anyways. That is from our website, the traffic data from the 3 days before the incident, and then the 3 days after also within the incident. And this is something I haven't seen since we started Microseed. I mean, I have seen it before when like someone big retweeted us or something happened in that realm. But that has been just like tremendous to see people actually now just not go to exchange and just like let self-custody be self-custody and say like, I have it on ETF, I have it on exchange, I don't care about self-custody. That for me is one very small data point, and I would be curious to see data points from Treasurer, from Ledger, from Ledger, maybe not, like other hardware devices like Seed Signer or the Jade. Like there's so many out there that you can use. Blockstream, yeah. Like how their data has been, other seed backup, the Bitcoin way. Like it would be really curious because I think everyone that is in that industry actually saw that same thing happening, that a lot more interest is all of a sudden like, oh, how do I do proper self-custody? And my hope, again, I'm an optimist. I will always be and remain an optimist. My hope is that people don't get scared of self-custody. They're actually learning how to have a stronger self-custody setup. And that's one very small data point that I can provide from the Microseed side, that we've just seen a massive increase in views and sales of the website because of that incident. And thankfully, we can also provide those tools, because 2 months ago we were, or like not even 1 month ago, we were sold out. So if it happened a month earlier, we couldn't even give people the thing that they wanted. Now we are back in stock and we have enough supply for everyone to get the Microseed. But that's been one thing that positively surprised me and gave me more hope for self-custody in general.
Yeah, and I think that is a positive sign for self-custody, because if you saw the graph go the other way, then maybe that would suggest that everybody's just saying, fuck self-custody, I'm out of here. But like I said, I actually said this to my wife this morning. I said, look, this could go one of two ways in the short term. I think long term, I think it's just going to enable the whole ecosystem to get stronger and stronger and stronger. But I think in the short term, once the dust settles and a lot of the emotion that's around all this, settles down, I think that people are just going to take this up a notch in terms of realizing what self-custody is. I mean, self-custody effectively means that you are your own bank, right? I mean, you are your own bank. And you think about how many layers of security exist in a bank, and you need to take it kind of that seriously. I mean, not kind of, really, because like I said earlier, if you have a significant portion of your savings, your wealth, your retirement account in Bitcoin, that is something that deserves your attention. I mean, you have to be really focused on what that actually means. Now, for some people, that means doing a lot of research, watching a lot of videos, tutorials, maybe consulting with experts, whatever it might be, figuring it out for themselves. So it's going to take time for them to figure it all out for themselves, because let's face it, self-custody, Bitcoin, comes from the world of tech, okay? And it means that if you're not tech savvy, you can easily screw it up. Okay. And so you've either got to take time to learn it yourself, and there are some phenomenal resources online that help people DIY, learn it themselves, or you go and engage a company, a professional, right, like the Bitcoin way, or the guys at BTC sessions, or there's a whole bunch of people out there that help people to set up these redundancies, okay, to set up infrastructure around their Bitcoin so that they can sleep well at night, knowing that if something like this happens, their Bitcoin is safe. Okay, then there's other services like the Bitcoin Advisor, Pete Dunworth's group in Sydney. There's multi-sig, there's collaborative custody. There are so many options that people have to do the research on for themselves if they want to be their own bank, and then decide which option suits them and their needs and their level of, not risk profile, but their level of capability and willingness to take on the personal responsibility. That's what I would say. And so I think that the word self-custody, which sounds very innovative and very cypherpunk and, very natural when people want to be free and they want to be sovereign and they want to be outside the system, the word self-custody sounds very noble and harmless and beautiful and freeing, right? But somewhere along the line, they have to attach to it responsibility. Like, this is serious stuff, particularly if you're holding your life savings in this thing. Now, none of what happened to these people, it's not their fault. They didn't do anything wrong. They simply did everything that they thought was right. Okay? But having said that, and I feel for them, and I cannot imagine what they're going through, and it would just be the most awful thing if you've been stacking Bitcoin for a meaningful period of time, or you've rotated significant savings into this thing, to then wake up one day and all of a sudden see your account drained. I mean, you just can't imagine what that would be like. And, the Bitcoin community globally, I think, has done a wonderful job over the past few days to just get on the front foot and encourage people not just to get their Bitcoin safe, but mentally, emotionally to work through this, right? So I'm going on a bit of a rant here, Robin. I'm sorry for that, but I just I'm trying to figure out where I want to take this. I think what this tells us is that self-custody will continue to exist. People will take it more seriously. The tools that exist around self-custody, they're going to improve. Okay, I think this is going to be a crossroads in the evolution of self-custody. And I think that it's incumbent on us as educators to also convey to new people coming into this space the level of responsibility that self-custody comes with. Okay, and I think if we all can start doing that, I think it's going to help people to understand that they need to ensure they do not have one single point of failure in their setup, no matter what the situation. And, I think that if people understand that coming into Bitcoin, I think these kinds of things, we're going to drastically reduce the possibility of losses in the future. There's one other point I want to make here. To date, there's about 1,300 Bitcoin that have been drained, okay, as of today. People forget that in 2022, 4 years ago, FTX, which was regarded as a reputable exchange, it advertised the Formula One, the NBA, a lot of big names were out there promoting FTX. What happened? FTX went down, and it took with it something like $8 to $9 billion worth of crypto, including Bitcoin. About 100,000 Bitcoin were lost. 100,000. Okay. Everybody said this is the end of Bitcoin. It will never recover from this. What else do we have? Voyager. Something like, don't quote me on these figures, but tens of thousands of Bitcoin. BlockFi, tens of thousands of Bitcoin. Celsius, over 200,000 Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin will emerge stronger from this. It's just that right now, it's a massive setback, and it's a massive kick in the guts for those who view Bitcoin as a way to protect our sovereignty. But we will recover from this, my friend. We'll get through this.
I think so too. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC free Bitcoin. That's why I use Simple Mining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together. That shows how many Bitcoin has been lost in various exchanges and third-party issues. We have Mt. Gox with 700,000 Bitcoin, Celsius with 200,000 Bitcoin, FreeAC 175,000, Genesis 150,000, FTX, BlockFi, Voyager. Oh wow, I didn't. What is Quadriga? I didn't heard about that. That's the only thing I didn't heard about. I don't know what this is, but also 60,000 Bitcoin. I was involved in Celsius, by the way. I don't know. I think I probably said it in on the podcast, but I was stupid enough to put some of my funds in Celsius. Luckily, a very small amount, like I think, like very small amount from overall Bitcoin. So I didn't lose a lot, maybe a few percent of my overall portfolio, but it still hurt because I watched that Alex Mashinsky guy and I trusted him, and I feel so stupid for that. But it taught me a lesson of like, look very deep. Like if you trust someone with your Bitcoin, look very deep. And I would say that generally as an advice, if you, like, first of all, you should take self-custody of your Bitcoin and not trust any third party. If you done that, you have not lost any Bitcoin, because then you have done your own entropy. You probably used multiple devices. You probably used multiple different vendors, all of those things. But also do that if you ever do something in the treasury space or like in Bitcoin on exchanges, like do your proper research around the company, what they're doing, what is actually your thesis around it. Because I want you to be only angry at yourself if you lose your Bitcoin. If you're angry at someone else, means you haven't done your homework. If you're angry at like Coldcard, it means that you haven't done your research completely. You are saying basically, oh, they've messed this up. Yeah, they've messed it up big time, I think. But also, you should take full responsibility for your own action and say, yeah, I was a little lazy. I didn't want to roll 100 dice. Or I just ignored it, because also someone pointed out, oh, like BTC Session recommended Coldcard, and then they linked the video of him. And I'm like, yeah, look at the video. He said in the video, roll your own dice for the entropy. If you have done that, you haven't lost your Bitcoin. So my overall point is like, do not trust third parties, because as you've seen here in history, they have lost a lot of Bitcoin for a lot of different people. And I think that's the overall point that this Coldcard incident hopefully highlights. Do not trust any third party. Do not trust also me or Zane. Just do your own homework and verify what we are saying, verify what people are telling you, verify any company, anything that you kind of encounter, especially when it comes to your life savings. I mean, if you don't care of how you secure your Netflix password, like, you don't have to care. Like, if you lose it, who cares? Like, you can just call the support. But don't treat your Bitcoin self-custody the same way as you treat your Netflix password, your, I don't know, PlayStation password, whatever password you have, that absolutely doesn't matter if anyone else gets it. I think I've never said it on a podcast, but I do like play some PlayStation here and there. And I even have a PIN code on my PlayStation. I don't know why, because like, you cannot really do anything on my PlayStation except play. But I even have a PlayStation, like a PIN code to get in my PlayStation, and friends come over.
So your girlfriend can't hack into it?
Oh, she knows the code. But like, friends come to my place and like, why do you have a PIN code there? And I'm like, because that's the most secure setup they allow me to do, and I'll opt in for the most secure setup that I can do, even though I'm securing nothing. Because you cannot pay for games on my PlayStation without my approval on the account itself. So it's usually meant for that. So someone cannot just come in your PlayStation account and buy a bunch of games and you've lost like hundreds of euros. But yeah, it's my point is like, don't trust third parties, like, period. Like, you've seen the chart here.
Yeah. And I think also, Robin, what's happening here is because people are scared, and rightfully so, with what's happened. They are rushing to make a rash decision. Now, I'm not saying it's the wrong decision, because for certain people, this is the right decision. But some people are just straight away, they're saying, I need to send my Bitcoin back to an exchange. Okay. In order to keep it safe. But if you really have the time to step back and think about that before you do it, okay, I know we don't have a lot of time when we're talking about these situations, but decisions that are made quickly that aren't thought through rationally sometimes are the wrong decisions. Okay, now I had a member of my coaching group call me on Saturday, and he and his wife have a significant amount of their retirement account in Bitcoin. And he was really concerned about, the situation. I mean, they use Coldcard, and it just took me some time to, like, he was ready to send his Bitcoin back to an exchange, but he just wanted to bounce the idea off somebody, namely myself, to have the conversation, just to kind of calm him down and to just think rationally about this. And he chose not to do that. And I'm not saying that not doing that was the right decision, but I wanted him to make the choice just based on reason. And we just had the opportunity to talk through the reasons why I wouldn't do that. Okay. Now, what I would do in that situation and what you would do and what the next person would do, they might be all different things. It doesn't mean that those decisions are wrong. It just means that that's the right decision for us personally and individually. Now, in his case, he chose to sit tight. He's a Bitcoin Way client. I said, the first thing you have to do, because you have a seed phrase that was derived from a Coldcard device, even though it's not a high risk device because it was the later queue. But even still, I said, the first thing you have to do is book your emergency call with them to get your Bitcoin moved across to a new seed phrase protected wallet, and then take time. And if you do choose to then send back to an exchange, then do that. But the problem with everything that I'm seeing here, and like we said earlier, 15,000 Bitcoin that we know of has already moved back to centralized exchanges. What if this is a coordinated attack? Okay, what if this is all designed to centralize more Bitcoin, to confiscate people's Bitcoin? Okay, I mean, it was on the news. I think it was actually Luke Mikic, who you were sharing earlier. I'm pretty sure in the last 12 to 24 hours, he's done a video on this, and he's sharing clips from Scott Bessent using the words confiscation when it comes to Bitcoin. The US Treasury Secretary, the words confiscation when it comes to Bitcoin. We're not buying Bitcoin. He used the word confiscation, and you need to watch the video in order to get the quote. But it was on one of the big finance political channels in America just in the past week. So, you know, we just have to think rationally sometimes. And for me, once you take your Bitcoin into self-custody, you have made a very important step, because now you have removed it from that central counterparty. And so when things like this happen, our natural reaction, our reflex action is just to go back to safety. And a lot of people see safety as that centralized exchange, counterparties taking care of their money for them. Whereas what we should be thinking is, for some people, I'm not saying for everybody, but if you've got time to think this through and you've already made the decision to self-custody, there's something in that. There's a reason why you chose to do that in the first place. There is a reason why you should be taking your time to make that decision, because it may be that all you really need to do is just move your Bitcoin into a temporary safe solution to give you time to think clearly, to get everything, you know, built in a strong way again. So, you know, I just think in these situations, there's a lot of emotion. People are nervous, they're anxious. There's a lot of noise on social media. And I just hope that everybody who's made a decision, number one, ensure you don't lose your Bitcoin. And number two, make a decision that's right for you in terms of securing it, at least for now, just to make sure that it's out of harm's way in all of this. But, you know, you can't understate the fact that if you add up all those figures, Robin, on that chart you showed earlier, it's well over 1 million Bitcoin that's been lost on centralized platforms, you know. So which one are you going to choose? You know what I mean? We've got 1,300 Bitcoin lost through a hack on a cold storage device, and we've got, including Mt. Gox.
It's 1.5 million. I just added them up. It's great, and that's just those 7 instances. So there's to be clear, those are 7 very big incidences, but they're not the only ones. Guys, I think there's a list. I've seen the website. I don't know where it is now, but there's basically a website where you can look it all up, what happened with Celsius and BlockFi, because this was just like 2-3 of the bigger companies that went bankrupt. There's like 50 bigger companies that just in that one instance went in the same direction, went bankrupt and lost a lot of Bitcoin. Now, if you look at the whole list, there's probably hundreds of instances where people lost Bitcoin on a centralized exchange, on a centralized entity. So those 1.5 million is just the very big screaming number, but there's a lot of smaller numbers along to that. It probably could, I haven't checked it, but it probably could go to about 2 million and beyond that.
Yeah, there's a really good chance that that's the truth of what it is. I mean, you know, it's crazy to think that amount of Bitcoin has actually been lost throughout history. It's just nuts. Particularly when you consider there's only 21 million to go around, right? And then you take into account Satoshi's stack, and Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. There's just one other point I want to make, Robin, on the, the lesser of two evils when it comes to securing your wealth and all that. And we're just talking about Bitcoin here because we're saying, well, okay, self-custody, you can choose to hold it yourself, or you can choose to leave it on an exchange, or you can choose to buy an ETF, or you can go into a collaborative custody setup. So people have options, right? And they need to choose the options that's right for them. But with everything going on in the world right now, when you think about CBDCs coming in Europe, the Clarity Act, stable coins, which many believe is just a glorified CBDC as well. Even in Australia, the Reserve Bank of Australia has been quietly working on our version of what has been referred to as programmable money in recent years. There was a big article about that last year on Sky News. Digital IDs, social credit scores, all of this stuff is coming, right? I mean, this is the world we're in now. And so people have to also, when they're making decisions about their savings and their capital, whether or not they want to have all of it sitting inside the centralized system, inside the legacy financial system. So whether it's superannuation, 401ks, managed funds, the share market, stock market, real estate, the banking system, I mean, you name it, okay? A lot of Bitcoiners, the reason why they're exiting all of that is because they're very concerned about what could potentially happen to their wealth in this new world that we're moving into. And they can see the increasing control. So it's not just, they don't just want to protect their money from inflation. They also want to protect their money from overreach, right? And this is the part in Bitcoin that's not spoken about enough, right? It's like everybody wants to be in Bitcoin to increase their purchasing power and to grow their wealth over the long term, which is a byproduct of scarcity. The more scarce an asset is, okay, the more it tends to grow over time. And this is why Bitcoin has been historically the best performing asset of all time. But there's another important reason why people take self-custody of their Bitcoin, and that is because they also want to be outside the system. They want to be financially autonomous and sovereign. Okay, and this is why I'm very certain personally that self-custody is not going to go away. It's just going to get more and more stronger. And all of the tools around self-custody, I think, are going to become easier to use, more robust. So yeah, let's see how all of this unfolds. But there are so many moving parts right now, not just in Bitcoin, but in the world at large and in the financial system. And Bitcoin is like front and center as like the opt-out, the escape hatch. But unfortunately, we get events like this that just sort of throw a massive spanner in the works, and everybody just goes put back on their heels, and they go, holy shit, we didn't see that coming, and what comes next. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in because it's not just about Bitcoin. This is about the broader state of the financial system, which we know is a debt-based monetary system, an inflationary system that continues to get worse and worse and worse and worse as time goes on. Now you bring in AI, which is going to have an impact on jobs, professions. We're going to have all of this synthetic abundance around us, like Jeff Booth talks about all the time. The only thing that's going to hold value is absolute scarcity in your life. It's not inflationary dollars or euros. It's going to be time-locked savings in an immutable ledger that nobody can corrupt. Now, obviously, we've got to make sure nobody can steal your Bitcoin, right? But that's ultimately what Bitcoin represents. And so it's not just about people wanting to get rich. And I know there's a lot of people out there on YouTube and all that. I won't name any names, but they're just all pointing at the Bitcoin community now and laughing at them and saying, you're all idiots, telling everybody to self-custody, just go and put your money into iBit, you know, and it's just, they're just missing the whole point of what this is really about. Anyway, I'll shut up there, mate, but I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, I think so too. I always say have Bitcoin self-custody first before you do anything else. I think having self-custody approach first before even thinking about, because I know a lot of people are currently interested in strategy, for example, and treasury companies. And it's fair. I also am a shareholder. I'm quite bullish actually on strategy, but I say, and I'll make that point like very often when I talk about strategy, I have 80+% of my net worth in Bitcoin self-custody. And if you do not have Bitcoin, if you do not understand why self-custody is important, I don't think you have a chance of understanding why strategy is good. And you will never fully grasp what they are trying to do. So before even trying to understand what any Bitcoin treasury company is doing, it's a very logical step for you to understand what the underlying asset they are using actually does and why it's important to have it also in self-custody. I think that's a very normal way to look at it. And also it's I remind people of that. It's amplified Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin, if you're not fully 100% convinced of Bitcoin, why would you do anything else with that? Now, for the people that are just like thinking like, oh, but I just want to have the number go up. I just want to have like the biggest amount of wealth. That's fair. But I don't think if you don't understand Bitcoin that you will fully grasp anything else that is built on top of Bitcoin. And I always encourage people to have Bitcoin self-custody, and most of it in Bitcoin self-custody, because it's not just about number go up, it's about the freedom aspects, it's about the sovereign aspects. And yes, I had a discussion recently actually on a space with someone that said, oh, self-custody is outdated. This was actually a month before the Coldcard incident. And I was like, of course not. Like that's the wrong way to look at it. I think self-custody is actually not too late or outdated. I think it's too early. I think it's a new innovation, a new revolution that is coming to our world that empowers individuals and gives the individual more rights, more power, more responsibilities. And we are just very early in that movement of holding our own keys. And this is actually beyond Bitcoin, I think. I think we will hold way more sovereign keys to our digital life in general. I think holding other very sensitive information on the internet, on the digital realm, will be way more sovereign than it is right now in the future. And so I think we Bitcoin self-custody maxis, if you want to call it that, like that, I think we're actually early in a way to how we hold digital property, how we hold digital things, information, whatever you can hold, because there's a lot more digital stuff that is valuable other than Bitcoin, which can be accounts that you have, that can be pictures that you have, that can be videos that you have, some legal documents that you have. You should also secure them nicely. You should also not just, upload them to iCloud or something like that. You should really think about how you can hold them in the most sovereign way. But I think I think we're early to that, not late.
Yeah, and I know you're a fan of applications like Proton and things like that. And, you know, it's important. You know, most people haven't really thought about digital hygiene, you know, and minimizing their digital footprint and these kinds of things. And I just think you're right, Robin. I think as time goes on, you know, if you value privacy and autonomy and freedom and sovereignty and all those things, then yeah, it's going to go beyond money in terms of securing all of that. And so I think the interesting thing about all of this is that as time goes on and as the world becomes more and more controlling and surveilling in terms of the way they want to digitize everything and centralize everything, at the same time, you got all of these amazing technologies coming online that are making it easier for people to protect their privacy, okay, and their sovereignty and things like that. So it's just really a question of whether or not you're going to opt out of the dystopian reality and start protecting what's rightfully yours, or whether or not you're just going to succumb to the entire machine. And you know, thankfully, as Bitcoiners and in this community, there are some phenomenal tools and educators and things that we get to see that are going to really help to protect people's sovereignty moving forward. So I think it's a really good point you make there, mate. And yeah, I think it kind of speaks to the holistic nature of being a Bitcoiner. You know, it's not just about money, it's about so much more than that as well.
It's freedom, it's sovereignty. I love it. I have one more topic for today, which I think is a very important topic, a topic that is discussed a lot in the Bitcoin sphere, that is very emotional, discussed. I have very good friends and respected Bitcoiners on both sides. It's the BIP 110 debate, and we are currently very close to the mandatory signaling phase. Now, I don't want to get into technical stuff, first of all, because I don't think I'm the best one to explain the technical stuff. And second of all, I think it's the technical stuff is not the most important stuff here. But I want to get your take on what's going on there. And for people who want to monitor the situation, I'm a big guy, a big proponent of monitoring situations. I like that website a lot. It shows me the data of like what's the signaling rate currently, how many blocks, and all of those things. And I just saw that signaling rate is still like very small, like 2.6% in the current period, from the first block 959,616 to 961,631, about halfway through, a little bit more than halfway through now. So 2%, 3%, it's not too much. And so it will be, I'm curious how you think about how this whole thing will shake out. But what's your take on BIP 110? Because you mentioned it, that it also might play some role in the overall thing that you're currently seeing also with that attack, with BIP 110 and everything that's going on.
Again, I'm not the most technical guy to speak to this, but I know you've had some phenomenal guests recently on your show, in particular, you know, people like Mechanic, and he's been really out there doing the rounds of late, and I've listened to a lot of his content around this. And so, you know, all I'll really say on this, Robin, is that I'm in the camp that Bitcoin is money. That's what it's essentially designed for. That's what I believe. I don't quite understand the incentives from those who are on the other side of this, who have basically ignored the Bitcoin community in terms of, you know, creating this constraint around op return and ensuring that there's no spam on the network and all of that. I'm yet to hear some compelling reasons why the other side is okay to essentially drop the gate and allow carte blanche, free run of data to infiltrate the blockchain. So, who knows how this is going to play out? I don't think anybody really knows exactly how this is going to go, and this is what makes this such a contentious soft fork. I run knots myself. So originally when I first started running a node, I started with what most people do, and that's run core. And then when all of this really started, I think it was around this time last year, wasn't it? That it really became evident what was happening with the Core V30 that I think came out, was it in September, October last year? When it became apparent what that was all about, I, like many, moved over to knots. Okay, so with that, I realized that just because you're running knots doesn't necessarily mean that you're signaling BIP 110. That's an update that some are choosing to follow and some are choosing not to do that. I think that if you want to get a nuanced discussion on this, for any of your listeners that hasn't watched the conversation with two of the tech guys at the Bitcoin Way, I'd encourage you to go and watch the interview. Their podcast was put out maybe about 10 days ago on BIP 110, where there's two guys who work for the team who provide a nuanced view from both sides on what this actually means. So probably best that I leave it at that, Robin. I believe Bitcoin is money. I don't know how this is going to play out. I know this is an important time for Bitcoin. Your viewers should go and watch that nuanced discussion, because it doesn't just paint one side, it paints both and gives the case for each. And it also explains why, there is a case for just sitting tight. If you're not with Core V30, so if you haven't gone with the latest update and you're just running an original version of Core, or you're with knots, there might be reasons why it's a good idea just to sit tight for the time being, just to see what plays out over the next few days once this mandatory signaling kicks in, because nobody really knows. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. But very interesting times, mate.
I was just searching the Bitcoin waving, but I can't find it.
The Bitcoin Way podcast.
Is it on the YouTube channel also? Like here?
Yeah. If you go down, it's one of them. There it is, BIP 110, chain split. Yep, that one.
Oh, this one. Okay. So you can check this out. Yeah, there's many, how to say, there's so much going on in this world, and brought up that before because you mentioned it. Bitcoin Mechanic on, obviously that's just one side of it, but I think he does a great job explaining it. There is many other people that I had on. I think I had James and Lobb I had on. I had also Pete Rizzo on. I had a year ago someone also on the knots thing. I think I forgot his name. He's less known and also not showing his face. Not this cool. I think there's another. Yeah, exactly him. He's also great. He's actually running knots since like 7 years or 8 years or something like that. So this is knots is a longer topic. So it was also fun to talk with someone that was on knots way before it became popular to talk about it. I had like James and Lobb, like all the.
Have you had Matt Hill from Start 9?
No, I hadn't had Matt Hill on. I feel like I should talk with him because I like Start 9 a lot. I think it's one of my nodes that I'm also running. It's a really cool, really great device, but I hadn't had him on.
Okay, I'd encourage you to have him on. I actually interviewed him just a day or two ago, and I'll be bringing that out on my channel in the next week or so. But again, he was just on the Bitcoin Way podcast as well, and he is a very interesting guy to listen to in terms of this whole debate and how he sees it playing out. And again, this is a guy that sells hardware, right, that allows people to run nodes. So he's copped it from every angle when it comes to both sides. So he's a very interesting guy to listen to as well. So yeah, get him on your show, man, because yeah, he's really, really fascinating to listen to.
And he's amazing in the support. When I ordered my Start 9, I had some problems with the ordering process for some reason, and he helped me out. It was so quick, it was so nice, and he just I just wrote to support in general, and he's just in there. So it's great. It's great support. So big Start 9 fan for any, especially for people are it's intimidating to how should I run a node and all of those things. Start 9 makes it very easy to set it up. It can be intimidating to run a node. Maybe that's the last message for today. Run a node. If you haven't done, if you don't run a node, just do it. Figure it out. Figure it out why you should run a node, why should you connect it to your wallet, and all of those things. And also, I'm a big proponent also of mining a little bit here and there to get some KYC, fully KYC-free Bitcoin, fully fresh from where the
exchanges and
so no exchanges, no peer-to-peer, no other person, the most fresh Bitcoin ever directly from mining Bitcoin. But yeah, so I love that we made a fully sovereign episode today, and the end routine, as you know, where the previous guest asking question for the next guest couldn't fit worse in this episode, but I'll ask it to you anyways. The previous guest asked you about your opinion on that. What is your perspective on digital credit?
I think there's a place for it for certain people, but I'm not a fan of treasury companies myself. I'm not a fan of STRC myself, because if that's what you're referring to or what the person's referring to, because I just worry what could unfold if this whole thing gets super leveraged, if Bitcoin's price stays down for a while and they need to sell Bitcoin to fund yield and all of that. So it's not for me, but I'm sure there's a market for it. And for as long as there's a market for it, one thing's for sure, there's going to be people like Michael Saylor who will figure out a way to financially engineer a product to go after that market. So that's probably my take on it, mate.
And the good thing is Bitcoin doesn't care if Stretch and Seyr, which is the two digital credit products that are currently out there, are super successful. Bitcoin doesn't care. If they go bankrupt and it's gone, Bitcoin doesn't care. So that's always my take on it. I don't own any digital credit because I think 11%, 12%, 13% is not enough yield for me to get rid of my self-custody Bitcoin. So it's a fun one to talk about it. But I see some use cases here and there. I would caution people, because those digital credit products, how they are designed, and you should do your research, they can withhold the dividend at any time. They don't have to pay it out. The product can be at any time retired. You don't get the product can go down massively, and they don't have to pay you back. There's no obligation on their side. So it's, for strategy, a great product because they acquire a lot of Bitcoin. And I think their whole purpose is to keep that Stretch alive. Also Strive, the second company with Seyr, the same thing. I just want to, it's not risk-free. I think that's the main thing that I want to tell people to say, if you're interested in that, just know that it's not I'll buy it, it stays at $100, and I just get a check every second week. It's not as easy as that, but yeah, if you're up for that, go for it. Thank you so much, Zane, for being in the podcast. Before I let you go, where can people find you, ask you questions, reach out to you, and all the fun stuff?
Like you, Robin, I've got a YouTube channel. So if you just go to @Zane Truscott, check out my channel. I share pretty much every second day some kind of a rant or something to do with Bitcoin on there. And I've just started my podcast again and interviewing guests. So that'll start to flow through very soon. Also, I have a coaching community, so you can check that out. There are links to that on my YouTube channel. But that's about it, mate. I just want to say thank you for having me on. It was a most enjoyable conversation. I hope your audience gets some value from everything that we went through today. But it's an interesting time in Bitcoin. Never a dull moment in Bitcoin, as we say.
It never gets boring. Thank you so much, Zane, for being on the podcast. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.